Have you ever asked your husband what he's thinking and he says nothing? Says nothing? Listen, if you're like me, years ago when Andre would say he was thinking about nothing, I found that hard to believe because I assumed his mind was like mine, and my mind goes all the time. There's never an opportunity or a time when I can think about nothing. It wasn't until I heard the teaching by Mark Gunham. He's an amazing teacher, speaker, minister who teaches a course called Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage, where he taught us about the nothing box. According to Mark, men have the ability to compartmentalize, meaning they take all of life, children, wives, finances, job, and they put them in little boxes. This is how he imagined it. The inside of their brain, inside of a man's brain, he imagined that they have little boxes, and in each box has its own topic. Money is in one box, family is in another box, children are in another box. And with those boxes, according to Mark, men go only into the box they are required to think about, talk about that thing, and never let the boxes touch. So the concept that he also added to this notion that there's boxes inside of a man's brain is that a man has what he calls a nothing box, the ability to think about nothing. Now, this is where Mark explains that men go when they need to decompress, when they're stressed out and they want to forget the world around them and relax, or even when they're trying to figure out a problem but they're not quite ready to address the problem, they hide out in their nothing box. He explained that this is why men can enjoy things like fishing or surfing the TV without watching anything because they're in their nothing box. Now, as a wife, that can sound crazy. It can seem impossible. And in fact, when I first learned the teaching, I didn't think it was possible. But after talking to Andre and really sorting things out, I came to accept this concept of the nothing box. It allowed me not to compare his way of thinking to my way of thinking. And if we're honest, when we look into scripture, the Bible teaches that when God created man and woman, he created us differently. And in that difference, we can learn to accept our differences. We can grow better. So I encourage you, as you are desiring to communicate with your husband, accept the fact that we are different and that maybe they do have this thing that Mark calls a nothing box. Now, of course, scientifically that can't be proven. But I think what I want to invite you to is that if you're willing to accept this concept, that when they're telling you that they're not thinking about anything, it can allow you to relieve yourself of this notion that they're avoiding or hiding something, which is where our minds tend to take us. He must be hiding something. He must be up to something. There must be something he doesn't want me to know. Now, I'm not saying in every relationship that couldn't possibly be the situation, but you know your husband better than I do. Is it possible that he is just zoning out, tapping out of all the world's stress and frustration and decompartmentalizing and decompressing by thinking about nothing? See, as women, we tend to talk to figure out what we're feeling. But for men, sometimes communication is a tool for negotiation, or he's using his words to problem solve or figuring out a solution. As women, we just love to talk. We enjoy communicating about every little thing. And so we assume that our husbands should be the same way, but they're not. And so when you're reaching for connection by saying, babe, what are you thinking about? And your desire is deep connection because you communicate through conversation. And maybe he's not aware that that's what you want. I invite you to get curious. So instead of getting upset when he says, I'm not thinking about anything, why not share with him that what you really want is to connect? And maybe connecting by talking or listening or asking him, how does he prefer connection? And I encourage you that if you try this method, it will cause you all to find that intimacy that may feel lost. And perhaps when you're thinking that you are emotionally distant or that your husband isn't emotionally available, it's not that he's not willing to talk to you about his emotions. But perhaps you're asking the wrong question by asking, what are you thinking about? So I'm inviting you to consider this concept of the nothing box. So instead of getting upset or allowing your mind to make up a story about why he's not talking, by thinking things like he's hiding something, he's up to something, or he's just not emotionally available, find new ways of getting curious to get him to open up and communicate. Remember, we communicate differently and we use our words differently. So the next time your husband tells you he's thinking about nothing, I encourage you to resist the urge of assuming really bad things about him. Get curious, find other ways to connect, and ask for what it is that you want. Because sometimes the key to a strong connection isn't changing him, but is understanding him. So remember that a healthy marriage starts with renewing your mind. Therefore, I encourage you to keep thinking your way to a better marriage.